Hey y'all, welcome to the TSE Webinar, the Uncommon Ones. Super excited to be with you, y'all today. We got Gus and Jeremy on the phone, and while everyone kind of shuffles in, we're gonna play a little video here of some common advertising that's going on. Music's not important. Just kind of see, are there any commonalities that you see right now in COVID-19 advertising? So let some people funnel in right now. Man, we got a pretty packed house, 150 signups. You know, we're already getting up to 100, so this is really exciting stuff, y'all. But yeah, just go ahead, make yourself comfortable. As you sit down, grab a piece of paper or something, because we're going to definitely get into some activities today where y'all can do some work to actually look at your brand. And this is not going to be your common brand workshop either, because we're going to look to do something a little bit deeper and more. But keep the video as you sit down as well. You'll probably notice that most brands look pretty similar right now, for better or for worse. I think personally for worse. I'm sure my partners would agree. So, but yeah, y'all. Today, you know, the way that it's going to work is that we're going to go ahead and do this workshop. It's going to be fully interactive. We're not going to take the whole hour. Afterwards, we hope to get some questions from y'all. Feel free to ask questions under the questions port on your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll be seeing these questions and we'll be answering them. And it's not just going to be me talking the whole entire time. Jeremy and Gus will also be popping in. You know, I'll let them introduce themselves actually right now as we let people funnel in. So Gus, why don't you go first and Jeremy can go next.
Hey y'all, I'm Gus. I am the Chief Operating Officer and I run the accounts team at the agency. Many of you, if you're a current client, know me and my team, Kara, Carolina, Shireen, and all those awesome folks, making sure that you're happy every single day.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm
Jeremy.
Jeremy.
What about you?
Yeah, I'm the title is Chief Strategy Officer. I work closely with our strategy and creative team on all sorts of things. Lots of you, I think we have a lot of friends attending today as well, clients and people that we know. But yeah, we do a ton of work around helping brands figure out, you know, the big question in branding is always what makes us unique? How do we stand out? Those kind of questions. This conversation today is kind of about that, and it's some of the applied framework that we've created for how we help our clients. So it might be familiar to some of you, might be new to others, but it's one of my favorite topics. So I'm really excited.
Yeah. My name is Kenny. I'm the CEO of 368. Really, my job is to make sure we execute on the vision that we set and also on the mission that we have. So I think this is a great time to go in and start with 5 minutes in, and welcome everyone to our webinar, The Uncommon Ones, the 3 P's of success uncommon brands. And with this comes our mission, which is to challenge common thinking so that we can create an uncommon future. And look, y'all, I know you're all in here today and thinking to yourself, I'm here to learn about some branding stuff. Well, we're going to talk about some leadership stuff as well, because this stuff is very important now more than ever. And, you know, the reason why it matters so much is that people today, as you saw earlier, they don't want to see like advertising. They want to see leadership. They want to see clear decision making. I mean, think about the brands that are really standing out today on the decisions that they make. Companies like Kane, Spanx, which we'll feature later. Those are the companies that are making decisions that are huge for the long term and not just trying to put up an ad. And that's all we really got to push today, is that we're not going to talk about clever advertising. We're going to talk about how to make clear decision making today, because the decisions that you make are going to be the best ways for people to learn about your company, because we're going to hear this over and over. Your purpose doesn't mean anything until it costs you money, and your purpose hopefully relates to the decisions that you make, and you have to risk being misunderstood. And we're actually going to open this up with a very uncommon brand that we're going to talk about, a brand that definitely challenges common thinking. If y'all haven't heard of Cards Against Humanity, I mean, some of y'all probably know this is a pretty terrible game for terrible people. I mean, it says on the box, a party game for horrible people. This is truly an uncommon company. I can't wait, and I cannot believe in my career I would ever start off a presentation using this as an example. But let me tell y'all, if y'all don't know what this brand is, funny enough, I actually do have the game itself, maybe because I'm a terrible person, but I'll explain to you how we play. Look, so let's say this. You get a group of your most terrible friends, and then one of your friends draws a black card. And the black card has a prompt where basically other people in the room have to complete the sentence. So in this case, the card says, in LA County Jail, word is you can trade 200 cigarettes for blank. And everyone else in the room would have white cards like this. And there's some terrible ones too. The goal is to play a card that the person that has the black card would pick as the right thing that can appeal to their terribleness. So cards that I have here are like Death by Steven Seagal, Passing a Kidney Stone, a mime having a stroke, or like Harry Potter erotica. I mean, that's some wild stuff. And the thing is, the person with the black card chooses it. Dang, there's a point right there. And everyone's laughing, and the whole rule of the game is let's all go to hell together. That's basically Cards Against Humanity. And I'll tell you all this. This brand here truly knows that their mission is if you give us money, we're going to make you laugh. And they own it in all their decision making. And I'll show you how. I mean, if you think about it, take a look at this right here. Is in 2013, right here, they decided to do a Black Friday campaign where they said, we're actually going to increase our prices if people actually bought from them. That's like conviction right there. That's actually knowing your audience and living your purpose, is that we're going to make you laugh and we're going to do something crazy. They took it even higher next month where they actually said, we're in 2014, we're going to sell literal bullshit. That's what they did. They literally sold bull feces for $6 a box. And they sold over 30,000 boxes. That's 180 grand in literal shit that was sold. Talk about living your mission right there. They upped the ante the following year. So the following year, what they did was they actually said, give us $5 and you're going to get absolute nothing from us. And people loved that. In fact, they loved it so much, people gave away 70 grand to this company and they received nothing in return. I mean, it's crazy because in here, you would think that people would be like, man, I'm not going to do that. They would have to do something. Well, I'll tell you this, is that not only did they do nothing, they bragged about what they did with the money, whether it's like taking vacation. I think some gave to charity, but they owned it. They said like, no, give us money. We made you laugh. Following year, though, gets crazy, is that they actually, in 2016, they decided to dig a hole. And they said, until we finish up digging this hole, you keep paying us money, then we'll stop digging this hole. Over $100,000 were raised from digging this freaking hole. This is some crazy stuff, y'all. This is truly Uncommon Company because they stuck by their guns and they're doing some pretty wild stuff. And they risk being misunderstood. And I'll tell y'all this, is that we're going to relay it back to what does it take to be an Uncommon Company versus an Uncommon brand. Really, they're the same thing. Brands and companies can be uncommon together. It's this, is that they understand that they can be easily described as X, an ideal/philosophy disguised as a Y company. Let me explain. Cards Against Humanity is a political advocacy group disguised as a card game for horrible people. Look at this. In the last couple of years, they have been using this platform as we're more than a card game. We actually want to see what we can do to give people a bigger voice. And so they've been talking about like Cards Against Humanity's Pulse of the Nation. They actually did surveys on what's the current knowledge gap and what's the current knowledge of the people that are voting today. They actually wanted to create something where people realize like, wow, we have to learn about the political landscape way more. Other thing that you see on the other side of the screen, they bought land to prevent Donald Trump from building his wall. They're getting into these crazy conversations, and they realize this, is that while we make you laugh, what we really want to stand for is that we want to make you laugh about the current political system today. It's a bigger calling than just a card game company. And you might think this is wild and they can get away with it. And I see already in the questions here that people are saying that this is such a great game. Thank you for like highlighting this game. You know, it's not just them that's doing this. It's other brands that are being uncommon. Brands that understand that their convictions and their purpose is what's going to get them through. Two examples here is that you have to know that these brands that I'm about to show you is that they can be considered as this disguised as this, starting with Raising Cane's and Spanx. So with Raising Cane's, if anyone's ever been to Raising Cane's, delicious chicken fingers, right? But always a great customer experience. In fact, when you walk in, you think to yourself, wow, these people are so awesome. What a bunch of awesome group of leaders. And you see right now through Raising Cane's, I mean, Forbes covered it recently, is that they're putting their money where their mouth is, where they say their crew, not their employees, they call them the crew. It's the most important thing to them right now and getting them through this. That's why Cane's lines are so long. And to them, it's that we're going to keep using our line of credit throughout this whole entire situation so we can make sure our staff stays on. That's so important today. I see some members of Cane's on the staff today. They can on the webinar today. They can tell you this is totally true. Cane's is actually pushing to hire new people right now. They're putting where their mouth is, where they're actually developing leaders. They just happen to be a chicken finger company. Now, Spanx. For those of y'all that are familiar with Spanx here, you know, everyone knows here that they make some pretty comfortable stuff. My wife loves them. And Sarah Blakely here, I mean, it's no surprise that she's a big voice for female empowerment and female entrepreneurship. She's putting her money where her mouth is right now. And that's what makes them uncommon, because you can really look at these companies and say, you know, Spanx is female empowerment disguised as an undergarment company. No one would argue with that. Raising Cane's, leadership development disguised as a chicken finger company. And to be uncommon today is so important because it's how you stand out and it's how you can get recognized. And these companies here have been doing it way before COVID-19. We're just seeing it now because, you know, they're not in survival mode really. They're in, we're going to have to live our purpose. And it's going to get us through this mode. And it's always going to get us through any big challenge that comes our way. And the one thing I want you to, like, let's say you could screenshot this today, is this message, is that uncommon companies understand that their purpose doesn't mean anything until it costs them money. From Raising Cane's to Spanx to other brands that we're going to talk about today, they put their money where their mouth is, and that's why they're the leaders that we respect. Because they don't market themselves through ads. They market themselves through clear leadership and decision. And that's what we need to understand today, is that people want to hear more about clarity rather than just good news. And that's why it's so important to know is that if you're going to be an uncommon company, one that stands out from the rest, you're going to have to risk some things, with the first one being able to be risk being misunderstood. And the second is actually being able to say that this is who we are and this is who we are not, and actually risking losing people for the sake of gaining people. That's what being uncommon is. And we have to do that today more than ever, because advertising isn't going to save us. Leadership is. Talking about the leadership of the uncommon decisions that you make to stand by your purpose, that is the most powerful way right now, today, and forevermore, of how you're going to stand out and have a competitive advantage. I think Jeremy has a quick comment that he wants to chime in. So, Jerb, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of covered it after I prompted you there, but I was going to say the same thing. It's all about risk, really, is the X factor in a lot of these brands, and brands that make courageous decisions, or even what you said, Kenny, decisions that cost them something. That's the difference that you see in a lot of brands that get to this higher level of being like cultural influencers, and what I call it, decommoditizing what they sell. You know, a company like Cane's sells chicken. You can get chicken anywhere. It's like the least differentiated thing that you can think of in the food space, yet Cane's is so uniquely differentiated. Sarah Blakely, you know, selling apparel, female apparel. It's a highly saturated space, yet this brand stands out. It's because you're not really selling a commodity, a product that can be knocked off and replicated. You're selling something else. So you're selling a point of view or a belief. And that's what this whole thing is about. And all the examples we're going to walk through today are the companies that inspire us, because they have the courage and the point of view and the ability to make decisions in line with that point of view that cost them something. And ultimately, by being willing to give something up, you gain more down the road. So anyway, I'm just reiterating what you said, but you kind of covered it afterwards, but I wanted to preach a little bit. So thanks.
Oh yeah, it's very true, y'all. It's like, that's why it's so important to be in common today. And you know, this today isn't a workshop to help you build your brand guidelines, brand story, brand whatever. I mean, you can go to any agency worth their weight should help you build this. I mean, this is a workshop to help you actually build an common company. Because right now, you know, you don't need clever marketing. You need clear ways to talk about how the hard decisions you're making is impacting people, for better or for worse. And we're going to give you a framework today with those 3 Ps to help you build that. And the first one is, how do you live your purpose? So I'm going to explain to y'all this. This is a perfect time for y'all to go ahead and get out a piece of paper here to kind of draw down. I want you to draw this Venn diagram down. It's cultural tension on the side, uncommon future to the right, and brand's purpose at the bottom. And this here is really 368's way in covering a brand purpose. And what these different definitions mean is cultural tension. Cultural tension is essentially what's big and wrong in the world today that you're hoping to solve. And usually it's bigger than just, we want to solve there's no good chicken finger companies out there, or there's no great undergarments out there. It's something bigger than that. And when it comes to uncommon future, that's what your brand is when it lives itself to the fullest. So when you think at the end of the day, when you execute on everything that you ever wished for, this is the future that you build. It's the uncommon future that no one could have saw coming because you stuck by your brand purpose. And finally, right smack dab in that middle right there is your brand purpose. And it's why you do what you do. And it's the filter in how you make great decisions. And look, I'm wearing some Patagonia today to actually rep the first example that we're going to show off. But I got to give it to the biggest Patagonia fan in the world that I know. Jeremy's actually going to walk you through the Patagonia brand and how they live this Venn diagram. Y'all, please write this down because this is gold here. And this is going to be your playbook in getting through the tough times and building that common company. So, Jerem, why don't you take it away and explain about Patagonia, man? You got some good stories.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to keep this short. Yeah, I am a very well-defined archetype of a guy with a beard who likes to hike and wear Patagonia clothes and works in the creative space, and I'm not ashamed of it. But Patagonia, so they're loaded with stories that exemplify this belief system and this way of doing business. And if you study them at all, you'll quickly find a bunch of examples. But one that stands out is the founder of Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard, back many years ago, as the company started to gain traction. Patagonia started as like a dirtbag climber company with no money, and for many years it didn't look like it was going to survive. And then all of a sudden, they were able to tap into a marketplace and start to get some traction, and the company started to grow. And Yvon Chouinard hit a point where he saw things moving in a very consumer-driven kind of capitalistic direction, and it didn't jive with their uncommon purpose. So he took the company into the woods on a retreat, sat them down and said, I want to stop growing. I actually want to shrink. I want to be smaller. And his executive team, his sales team, they freaked out. They had a meltdown, and they were like, we're invested. We have supply chains. We've made decisions for a 10-year growth track. We're beholden to our investors, all these things. And the fear came out. And he said, I don't care. He said, I want to be smaller. I see where we're headed, and it's a dark path. We're using too many resources. When I go climbing, I see our gear left out on the trail. He had all these anecdotes for why the brand had become a betrayal of why it existed in the beginning, its purpose. And so ultimately, long story short, by the end of the weekend in the woods, everyone was not only bought in, but it was borderline cult. These people were so on board with shrinking the company that they went back to work and started to come up with ways to slow down sales, which is insane, right? Like any other business would think that was like blasphemy. But what they did is they started to push like reusable clothing and buying secondhand clothing. They started to do anti-Black Friday campaigns. They started to close down on shopping holidays and things like that. And what it led to is, in spite of their best efforts, they haven't been able to shrink. They just keep growing, because the more that they live their purpose, their uncommon purpose, and they do what it seems counterintuitive to any business analyst, the more they do that, the more that people buy in to who they are as a brand, and the more that they grow. But now they're able to grow the way that they want to grow on their terms. And I just think it's such an inspiring story and such a great example of an alternative to what we often think or hear business needs to be, which is all about the bottom line, and it really isn't. business is a relationship on a lot of levels, and they seem to understand this. So Kenny, if you want to scan forward, there's some examples of how Patagonia has exemplified this belief system. And ultimately what they are is
their purpose currently, I think, is we're in business to save our home planet. That's the current purpose that they had. Their new mission as of, I think, about 2-3 years ago. It was just a re-articulated version of what they had since they started, but that's all they're focusing on. And so this is one of those examples, like it could just live on a piece of paper on a wall in some office somewhere, but by being a brand that's like, because that's what a lot of these workshops end up being, is here's your purpose, put it in some pretty poster, put it on a document somewhere perfectly organized in your Google Drive, your Dropbox, that like it has all of what your brand is in a piece of paper, and it stops there. And what brands that are uncommon truly do is take that purpose and make actionable business decisions based on their purpose. And there's some like examples following. So
yeah, exactly. It's that purpose is the driver for decision making, and that's the decisions are what matter, because the decisions are what ultimately create your business. They create your client base. They create your culture. But without a purpose, decisions are just going to be copycat decisions. They're going to be like optimized analytical decisions based around a business bottom line and not based around a purpose. So this is an insanely cool ad for somebody who's in advertising, is don't buy this jacket. And it's an ad all about like, you don't need new clothes. You can repair the clothes that you have. And just what a cool message, and what a counterintuitive message for a brand that makes new clothes. You can continue on, Kenny. This is just an example of their worn wear. So they'll take back clothes and repair it and resell it.
Yeah, they've subverted themselves and cannibalized themselves by, instead of selling new product, we're going to be the people that enable reuse and reusability of the products that we have, which their purpose drove not a campaign or an ad. It was a full-on product and e-commerce store for people to buy stuff that they aren't currently even making, which I think is like a true example of a decision they made to drive.
Yeah. And they've put their money where their mouth is. And if you jump to the next slide, they get, like many businesses where this would be a negative headline, where, oh, this large scale business, got another tax break. Patagonia just put that money straight into their purpose and donated it for climate change awareness. And so once again, having a core understanding of their uncommon purpose gives them the framework to make courageous decisions that are scary, loaded with risk, and with that risk, there's payoff. So this example inspires me, and it's a great reminder every day to remember that you're more than what you sell, and Patagonia is an environmental conservation organization disguised as a clothing company. It's that simple, and they know that.
Yeah, it's actually pretty hard not to know that today, right?
Yeah, they've made it clear.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that their problem is growth. Like that sucks. Like your biggest problem is like we're growing too fast. Like people want our stuff so more, we're trying to slow it down. What a conundrum, but that shows you like that's an uncommon problem because they're doing uncommon things, right?
Right. And I have a quick podcast suggestion for anyone who likes podcasts. There's a podcast called Business Wars that talks about the rise of Patagonia right now. So if you just look up Business Wars, it's a great listen, and it elaborates on this a lot more. Yeah.
All right, y'all. We're going to go ahead and go with our first discussion prompt here today. Is that, in the chat room under the questions, we want to hear from y'all. Type of brand that's living their purpose during COVID-19. We're going to take a couple minutes, let's say like 2 minutes right now. Share like why do you admire the brand, and how do their actions reflect their purpose? We want you to start thinking. A good framework for this is thinking what brand represents this ideal or philosophy, but they're disguised as this brand. That's what we want to get to, because those brands today are the ones standing out, and they're going to make it through even better than they were before. Gus and Jeremy, while people are writing stuff down, do you want to share any thoughts that you have on these? Any brands that you can think of?
Yeah, Gus, do you want me to jump in? I've got an example in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's one app that we use here to communicate, collaborate. It's called Loom. It's a little video extension that goes on your browser, and it just allows you to record your screen and your camera to explain or demo something or whatever. And it's a great way to teach or to train remotely. And what Loom did is, when all of this happened, is they just made all of their pro services free for educators. So they said, like, teachers, administrators, anybody who needs to communicate and teach remotely, all of our enterprise, all of our pro level services are free right now, because we understand that right now our purpose is to connect people and enable them to share information. It is not to make more money. And you know, some people may perceive that as a clever marketing ploy, but I would say that you can choose to perceive it that way, but at the end of the day, they made a decision to forego profit for purpose. And that to me is a cool example. So.
Yep. Guess what?
A cool example that I found was it was J&J. So Johnson & Johnson's pharmaceutical brand. I follow I listen to Science Versus and some like medical oriented podcasts, but in my research to try to find good information about COVID, J&J has a weekly show talking about the path to the vaccine, and they could have made an ad like Kenny started with the beginning about the stuff that they're doing to right now for their employees. But the J&J Pharmaceuticals, the path to keeping people healthy and providing products that keep people alive and well, they're like, let's make not an ad, a show to keep people abreast of all the research that's happening to get us to a vaccine. And it's not going to be an ad. It's going to be just physicians talking about the stuff that isn't the sexy stuff. It's something that people are really trying to track and understand about whenever they can actually have actual access to a vaccine, and not something that is, touted in the media. It's them trying to talk about the path to it. So I think that was an interesting brand route and how they're living their purpose of trying to keep people well.
Yeah. One that comes to mind for me is Delta Airlines. I mean, I saw yesterday that I think it was the first like unprofitable quarter they had in like many, many years. And, that's to be expected, but they're really putting their money where their mouth is. Like, they're flying like doctors and anyone like frontline people to places that need the most help right now, because they realize like, look, at the end of the day, like, let's just do the right thing. And we have the opportunity to do that. Like, let's do that. And that's why, like, I love flying Delta, and like, they really do put their money where their mouth is. And that's what we want to see from brands today. Man, we got a lot of
awesome
answers here, y'all.
Yeah. Allbirds donating footwear to healthcare workers, which is such an awesome. Yeah, that's so awesome, especially comfort wear.
Let's see. LinkedIn has offered free job postings for essential services. So true. LinkedIn has definitely stepped up. Four Seasons Hotel. Giving lodging to healthcare workers. Nike, to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete. I mean, they're really stepping up too. I mean, these are great examples of Shopify, Delta, Chewy.
I see some local brands on there too. I see Everstein Farms. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Varsity Sports.
Cool. Yeah. Ooh, this is a lot of stuff, y'all. This is good stuff. And like, I'm glad that you're able to recognize that, these brands here realize that right now they need to live their true purpose. And it's way harder to do now more than ever. So look, y'all, we're going to make it simple. Remember this, and we're going to go back to the questions in the comments. Don't worry. Your purpose doesn't mean anything until it costs you money. So if you really do want to stand out today, figure out where are your convictions, and those convictions, that those hard decisions you make on your brand, talk about it, because that's not fluff. That's truth, because those decisions impact lives. It's those decisions that you choose to make a better company that's going to be the best way for people to talk about you, for better or for worse. Now, y'all, let's go to the second P, person. You got to know your person here. You know your purpose, but you got to know who you're talking to. Who are you helping? And that usually starts with this first question: who will love you the most? Yes, we can do a bunch of like like personas and everything. I think it's a little bit more simple than this, because now today, like, if you stand for way more than what you just sell, you're just disguised as this. The question's a little bit more tougher. I find these are the right questions you should be asking, which is, who will love you the most? What is their name? Can you actually describe that person as if they were a friend? Like, how close are you really to them? Now, what is their passion? What is their pain? And then how do you make them a hero? These are all critical questions here, because you should know your friends well enough where if you say this, you can describe a friend that you have. I will tell a story right now with one of our clients, Beth Comstock. Some of y'all might remember her as the former vice chair of GE. She wrote the book Imagine It Forward. She came to us a couple of years ago with a problem. And it's, I am a little bit nervous about public speaking. I'm coming out on my own right now where I'm not part of GE anymore. I need to release this book, but I'm a little scared to get my message out there. Can you help make me look like a hero? And can you help me make public speaking not so scary? And like, the thing is, like, once you're able to realize who your person is, what makes them passionate, and like to her, it was developed leaders, you can start making it so much more clear on, I'm going to make this really hard decision because I'm doing it for people like Beth. And so for us, our person was super simple. It was Beth, because she loves inspiring leaders. Public speaking was her huge fear, and we want to make her a hero. We want her to get out on stage. And you saw that last image. That was at the Inbound conference for HubSpot. That's about 15 to 20,000 people. That's a lot of freaking people. You got to go out there and turn on and think about themselves. It's like, y'all can be leaders too. And look, we wanted to make her the best presenter ever. And that's why the key takeaway here is you got to think of your brand as a platform today, a platform on how to make heroes. You got to know who the people you're talking to are, but then you got to figure out, how can I actually make them heroes? Good thing we have a playbook for you. We'll give you some examples, local and national. Some of the questions that we saw earlier are about, how do you make heroes locally and nationally? Thank you for asking. I'll give you two examples. One is from one of our clients, shout out Ochsner Health System, Warner Thomas. I mean, LinkedIn is a great way right now for people to really stand out on the executive end. It's to really showcase like how they're living their purpose. He's giving shout outs to all the people on the front lines right now. And that's a great way to show that, hey, look, we're more than just a company that's trying to sell you healthcare. We're fighting with you. And these are people too. And it's that kind of mentality of being a platform that's going to get them to be further and to recruit the best talent. I mean, the next one, y'all seen, John Krasinski, formerly from The Office, playing Jim. If you've seen like his Some Good News videos, they're so warming. And like, the last episode 3, that was pretty cool. And AT&T actually stepped up. They let John be the hero to deliver the news, is that any nurse and physician will now get 3 months free on their FirstNet network. They put their money where their mouth is. They said, we want to give telecommunications to all, and we realize it might be pretty hard right now. But John, tell you what, we're going to step up, and we're going to let you deliver the good news. I'm sure John's going to be the biggest fan of AT&T forever, and anyone that watches Some Good News will be huge fans as well. Some other ways is this, more relatable, is chefs. So, one of the ways that I personally have been impacted by COVID-19 is that I cook way more than I ever did before. And it's pretty cool when chefs actually start teaching how they're making dishes. So you look like a hero at home cooking some really delicious food. And that's a very easy way, is that you don't have to give away a bunch of money here, but you can teach people new skills to put them in a different light. And that's really what making heroes is that internally you help your person be more secure and empowered to do new things or have a message out there. But externally, what you do is you help these people that you're being a conduit through is being seen in a different light. So whether you're cooking a dinner that your spouse or whoever you're with thinks that you're not even capable of, or you're trying to highlight people in your organization that are unsung, you got to be that platform for people to be able to shine on. One of my mentors, Bill DePaula, from Ballard Brands, PJ's Coffee, Wow Wingery, he says the brightest light in the world is the light that you shine on others that shines right back on yourself. And it's true. It's because that light that you shine on others that reflects back on you, that's because you're helping people shine and becoming a hero. And in return, that person you're helping is going to inspire others, give resources, and believe in your mission. So your prompt here is to think about your person that you're helping today. You know, what's their name? What's their passion? What's their pain? And then how do you make them a hero? I want to see this in the chat room, y'all. Please, please, please share. And like, it seems like y'all love sharing right now. That's awesome. While y'all write this down, I'm actually going to kick it to Gus. Gus, let's answer on the TSE end. What do you think?
So 368, I'll use real person, Amy. What's their name? So Amy is the kind of a brand marketer. They're the people that we work with. I'll use Amy as a real example. So Amy is actually a client from Tidelands Health System, but the people that are kind of the most opportune client for 368 are people that are extremely passionate, not for marketing or not just for advertising. They're extremely passionate in the work that their organization does. So Amy has been in healthcare for, 5 to 10 years, and she's been working at hospital systems, hospice care companies, and she's extremely passionate about that industry and the work that she's doing. And the thing, and so people like that really tend to work well with us. People who exceedingly high from what they do. Then their pain, a lot of the people that we work with, their pain is the fact that they were agency in the past. The fact that they had gone through the ringer with these other shops that sold a vision. They sold, beautiful fluff. They sold, like I said, these documents that will show up on their wall that have their purpose somewhere displayed for everyone to see, but they didn't actually give them any tools to help make decisions or produce groundbreaking work for them that wasn't just something on a document somewhere. So their pain is having been through the ringer with the agencies. And for us, what we found is the way we turn those people into heroes is not only do we produce truly impactful work that drives revenue, drives cost downs, or truly achieves clarified goals, but it's also just doing the best work of their career. Like, that's what we're trying to do is when you come to 368, we want you to be able to say that I did the most groundbreaking work in my entire career as a person. Like, we work with brands, we help brands, but the people that we work with, we want them to be able to say that. And whenever they've done groundbreaking work, that's when they turn into a hero. When they win awards, when they get promotions, when the things that they do get the light shown on it, that's what makes us most excited. So that's 368's person.
What's interesting, Gus, is when you talk about Amy, I wasn't in the initial projects we worked with Tidelands on. I wasn't on the project, and then I was put on one last year, and we flew out to meet Amy in Myrtle Beach. And when we met with her whole team, we had like a whole team meeting. The first thing she said is she was like, "I hate agencies." And we were sitting in the room, and I was like looking at Gus like, did we do something wrong? And she said,
"But set up."
Yeah, and then she was like, "But these guys aren't an agency." And that was like the greatest compliment, and that was, it said a lot about how she thinks about us and how we've developed that relationship. And I think that's kind of like, for us, an uncommon truth is I like to tell people, we're not agency people. None of us came out of agencies. We don't really know how they're supposed to work. We do what we do, we develop our relationship,
the best work possible,
and we do the best work that we can. And that's become a truth for us. And the category of person that I think, that the way I talk about our person is, I call it the restless marketer. It's like the marketer who's like tired of all the baloney and tired of like cycling through all these different vendors. And they just want people to honestly just be real with them and develop some sort of real relationship, and then to be real about the work. And it's super simple, honestly, as a concept. And it's been a truth for us that we've been able to lean into as a company. So yeah, just to expound on that, Gus, I thought that moment with Amy was really powerful for me.
I love it.
Very true, y'all. And, for anyone doing this activity right now, is that, this is a good time to look at, like, how can you actually be a platform? Because today people want to be served, not sold. And serving is a great mentality that when you say, let me actually help you with your life, rather than let me sell you on the things that, I only have. We kind of joke around at the office. We follow this principle on relationships called RAIL, and Jeremy uncovered it. It's kind of something I do just in my life that I never realized I did. It's a framework, RAIL. It starts with, and this is how we make people heroes. First is anyone that talks to us will always refer to them to like a new product or someone they haven't met before. it's always referring. A is annoyed. That means we'll always follow up and we'll be in your ear saying that, hey, did you actually do it? I is informed, which is, hey, did you try this? Or like, you want to try something else? And L is love, which is, even if we can't do what's right for them because we don't have what they're looking for, we'll forward them somewhere else. And that's where, you can be the hero in that person's life, is that you can like say, hey, I can't serve you right now, but I can help you with someone else that can. And that right there is where you stick to your purpose and not try to make a cheap buck. And that's the hardest thing we can do right now. But I believe in y'all, is that y'all can do it if y'all stick to your purpose and say that there's something bigger than just making a quick dollar. Now, y'all, let's get to the final P here. But before then, here's a really important quote here. We're trying to give y'all some quotes that y'all can screenshot. It's very true here. If you sell products, you get customers. If you solve problems, you get fans. If you make heroes, you become indispensable. These companies I showed earlier, like Raising Cane's, Ochsner, like AT&T, like these guys are becoming indispensable because they're really putting their money where their mouth is today, and they're a platform for others to shine on. So let's go to position. And this is our last piece for today that we can start breaking down into questions. And it starts off with, what makes you different? And I'm going to actually let Jeremy walk through with y'all today on an example. So Jeremy, why don't you take it away with this one?
Okay. Oh, am I muted?
Nope, we can hear
No,
you.
we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So let's go into this example is really fun. I'm sure all of you attending have seen both of these brands, particularly the one on the left, most likely the one on the right. If you do anything online, you've probably got an ad by now. But Serta versus Casper is a great example of positioning and the 3 Ps and being uncommon. And Casper is kind of the exemplification of what has become a whole category of mattresses. But Serta as a brand is, like, in terms of market share, a Goliath. And you've seen like Mattress Direct stores on every corner. You've probably wondered if they were money laundering operations at some point, because how can they possibly all stay in business? We've all been there. We've all wondered, who goes to these stores and how often? And how often do people buy mattresses? And why are they so expensive? So Casper, as a brand, became aware of this dynamic in the market space where mattresses were expensive and they were not really differentiated. Really, you would go into a mattress store and hope that they were marked down 50% and that you could avoid a salesman and you can get in and out as fast as you can. So Casper comes in and they understood that their purpose was not to sell discounted mattresses from a mattress store, but their purpose was to help people sleep. And they understood that their person was tired of going to mattress stores and trying to haggle. Similar to, like the used car experience. There's very few people that enjoy the used car experience. It was similar with mattresses. And Casper understood their purpose. They understood their person. So then they just had to go through the act of positioning. So Kenny, if you want to shuffle forward, we can see what differentiated positioning looks like whenever you have the clarity of your P's. So if you look on the left here, what do you see? You see discounts, right? Save $900. You see some very generic looking people laying in a bed. Every ad that I see here has price, savings, price, unbeatable prices, save $600, instant savings. So what has happened is the position of Serta is, we're not really threatened by anybody. We own the market space. And so now we can charge you whatever we want for our product and give you these faux discounts at every turn, probably on every weekend, to try to incentivize spend, right? Try to incentivize people to buy. Now we look on the right at this challenger brand, Casper, who kind of comes out of nowhere and understands that it's about sleep and it's about avoiding the salesmanship and the haggly, discounty vibe of the mattress industry. And so what they did is they did these really alternative pieces of creative content for their campaigns. And it's the perfect mattress for paleos, the perfect mattress for frenemies, the perfect mattress for insomniacs. So talk about knowing your person. The perfect mattress for insomniacs. That's going right back to their purpose of we deliver good sleep. You know, we don't deliver discounted mattresses, we deliver good sleep. And then knowing that their person is a younger purchaser, and many of you know this, but in the current state of our culture is frantic. You know, we're connected. You can't get away from a text message, a notification in your pocket. You can't get away from work because emails follow you everywhere you go. And so people are high anxiety, they are wired, and they're connected. And so what ends up happening is we're losing sleep. People are not sleeping well. They wake up and roll over and look at their notifications, can't go back to bed. So Casper understands this. They understand their person. And to make this person a hero, you need to give them good sleep, because people with good sleep are better at work. They're happier, they're healthier, they live longer, all of these things. So this is, like, to me, just such a great juxtaposition of a brand that has lost its purpose and really isn't marketing to any person. It's just a discount, and then a brand that has clarity. And so, you know, what you see on the left is, hey, anyone, save money on your next mattress. Just drive to the nearest mattress store and hope that the sales rep will honor this arbitrary discount on our expensive product. And then on the right, you get a message that says, hey, savvy, conscious, smart consumer, get better sleep and better health without ever leaving your house. Did we mention that it's half the price? So in addition to having a more anchored purpose and a clearer position toward the person that they're serving, they also have a direct-to-consumer model. They also have a better price point. So there's all these competitive advantages in the commodity itself. But in addition, even within that subset, they have deep purpose that allows them to make the decisions that drive this type of messaging and drive the consumer behavior that they've seen and the success that they've achieved. So yeah, if you want to move forward, Kenny, I think the next slide, kind of shows what happens whenever you have that clarity and the ability to make decisions that are tight and not all serving. You go from 0 to $1 billion in 5 years, apparently, if you're Casper, which is pretty good results, I'd say. And to see our Mad Libs framework for positioning filled out for Casper, this is what it looks like. So the 4 is for their person. It's for a savvy modern consumer who want to get better sleep at a reasonable price. So going back to they're delivering sleep, Casper is a sleep company, not a mattress company. That's a very important distinction for them. That helps awaken the potential of a well-rested world. Once again, purpose. Why get better sleep? Because you have higher potential when you're rested. It's all about making someone a hero, and they're very clear on that. You can see it here. Unlike traditional mattress brands that focus on high-margin retail products, Casper sells better sleep at a better price directly to the consumer. Very clear, very specific. They've got their 3 Ps locked down. Okay, so Kenny, this is where I'm going to pass it back to you. We have one more story for this one, but this concept of a new ladder is a really powerful concept, and it comes from Roy Spence, who is the founder of an agency called GSD&M. They handle everyone from Popeyes to Southwest Airlines. Like, they're just legendary as an agency. They've been around since the 70s. But the concept here is that if you're trying to climb to the top of a ladder and there's somebody sitting on the ledge at the top of the ladder, all they have to do is kick you off as you get to the top. It's going to be really difficult to get over the top when somebody's sitting up there just kicking you down. So the better way to get up there is just to have a new ladder and climb around them. And so unique positioning is akin to a new ladder. So for Casper, if they would have tried to compete with Serta through discounts and through media spends and through steeper coupons, Serta would have just outspent them or outdiscounted them until they gobbled them up and crushed them, because Serta sits on top of this ladder and it's impossible to climb past them. They're just too big. They've got too much of a foothold. So what Casper did is they took it online and created a new ladder. And this new ladder was direct to consumer and went around the retail stores. That's a really good example of what it looks like to build a new ladder as a company. And that's the way you should think about positioning, is like, whatever the common way to the top is, you don't want to do that. You want to find the uncommon path. You want to create your own uncommon ladder. And this is a big part of our philosophy. And what we do with our clients is say, like, look, if we're trying to scale this same ladder that everyone else is scaling, it's a race to the bottom. So let's do something different, even if it's loaded with risk. If we're clear on our purpose and we're clear on our purpose, on our person, we can make an informed decision, and that risk will typically pay off. So Kenny, I'll let you take it from here with another great story.
Yeah, I think most people here have heard about Southwest Airlines. And this story actually came from Roy Spence when we asked him, so how do you actually build ladders and make it real? He said, you ever heard of Southwest Airlines? And we're like, of course. And he said, would you believe there was a time when, they weren't the top of their game in customer service and all those things that we view as important? And I was like, yeah, that's a little hard to believe, but how did they do that? And he said the craziest thing ever, y'all, was that, look, Irv, the CEO and founder of Southwest, came to him one day and said, what are we going to do? And Roy said, congratulations, you just won the Triple Crown Awards. And Irv was like, what is that? And it turns out, like, what it was, look, Southwest is number one in these three categories that no one else is measuring. And it was stuff like, suitcase, like, when you have to, like, travel, you have to pay for your suitcase, baggage fees, we don't do that. Most, like, nicest, like, flight attendants in terms of, like, how they were dressed or how they were presented. Those are all things that people didn't think about that really mattered, that actually mattered. And that is how they actually went to the top, is that every year, like, I think they did for, like, even now, today, like, they had this thing called the Triple Crown Awards, where they awarded themselves this own internal award on things that really matter that didn't get highlighted. And only until, like, the last couple, like, 10, 20 years, that people started thinking, oh, man, that stuff really does matter to me. And that's what we mean by different ladder here. It's like, are we being measured in the right way? And that's so important to think about, is that you don't have to invent a complete new category, but you should be able to invent how people think and value things. Because there are things out there that we might not realize that are so important to us. And when you say it out loud, of course we care about baggage handling. Of course we can't care about customer service. Those are the things that really matter a bit more than price sometimes as well. So
it was
we're going to go
in part of the story, it was a made-up award, and other airlines CEOs were like, how did they get the Triple Crown, even though it was a made-up award? I think I remember hearing that part of the story is other CEOs were getting jealous of something that was fabricated by Southwest. Oh, and the photo is actually, they have a plane commemorating the Triple Crown Award. It's called the Triple Crown 1, I believe. And it's just the award that they made up on a plane.
And that shows y'all that's truly uncommon thinking there, is that they figure out, like, hey, look, everyone else is competing under this metric. We have our own definition of success, and we're going to follow that. And we're going to stay with that conviction, and hopefully it works out. And sure enough, it did. Everyone knows Southwest is the pinnacle of customer service, disguised as an airline company. So y'all, try this out. And you're going to get these prompts later if you do this activity that we request y'all to do, is that we want y'all to be able to look at your position as well. You pretty much know who you should be talking to. I see it right here in the answered questions portion. But really, what you have to think about is, like, who are you not? Because whatever you build here and whatever big decisions you make, you have to realize, like, it's going to attract people, but it's also going to repel people. You have to be so clear in what you believe in, and that right there is how you're going to stand out today. You'll see this again later. Look, for 368, this is what we are for restless marketers who enjoy courageous, standout brands. 368 is a marketing agency that provides world-class creative services, unlike traditional marketing agencies that take the path of least resistance. And some of our clients in here know that's very true, is that 368 challenges clients to be, and that is where
uncommon
we challenge them.
What it's supposed to say.
Yeah, uncommon. Exactly, uncommon. And so, look, y'all, the message is very simple. Different is better. find the things that we should be measured on, not what everyone else is being measured on. That's the way to look at your brand, and that's the way that you can figure out how you're different from others. So look, all this is BS is if you can't turn this into life. And so the way that you do this is I'm going to give you some frameworks here. The first is ad agencies like ours want you to fill stuff out like this. And you should, because you should know your brand purpose. You should know like the big problem in the world. You should also know what happens when your brand lives their life to the fullest. That's the uncommon future here. You should fill this out, okay? Now, let's take it a little bit step further though. You should really have a scorecard to help guide your decisions here. And so I'll share with you one of the scorecards that we use as a company is that at the end of the day, we realize that, ads aren't going to save us. It's the decisions that we make as a company to build our people, to go against the grain, to do things that are very different. For example, if anyone here has been to our Assembly Required conferences, it's pretty rare when you see a 20-person shop at a time do 4 conferences in a year for 150 to 200 people. That's crazy. But we realized that if we're going to challenge common thinking, we need to build a platform to do it. And we did it. And that's why we're here where we are today. And so this is a scorecard that can reflect that. And it can look like this. I promise you can get this if you follow this activity. And so this is a scorecard that we have where, we can actually look at things objectively and be like, hey, are we actually living our purpose here? Having an actual framework starts building habits. And these habits can help you start realizing that, wow, I should focus a lot more on my decision making than your marketing. Because it really, if you think about it, a good way to look at how effective your advertising is how little do you have to spend. Because when you know that you have to spend very little because your company is already remarkable because it's doing uncommon things and you're talking about it in the right ways, you're in a really special place. And that's why we're going to reiterate this, is that just writing down purpose is not enough. You have to live and own your decisions. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. That's the thing is you put your money where your mouth is, and there are platforms out there where you can do it that's very inexpensive, like LinkedIn. Look at Ed Bastian here from Delta. I gave that example earlier where he's flying people out right now that even though they didn't have a profit this quarter, that's okay. They're going to do the right thing. And that's the best way to market is that they're making good decisions that are standing up for what they believe in. Mary Barr from General Motors, she was actually on Fortune magazine's top 25 heroes in the coronavirus. They suspended production in North American manufacturing operations to evaluate each facility's condition on a weekly basis to ensure a systematic and orderly approach. That's crazy. That's costing them money, but they're standing up right now to say, we got to be a super safe workplace and we got to do the right thing. Those decisions are what people are going to talk about for years to come because it costs them money. And whether it's right or wrong, they stood by their convictions. And people talk about that. Look, Shake Shack. Everyone can argue here that Shake Shack, should they have taken the money or not? Like some of those other brands with PPP. Here's the thing, though. They admitted, one, that, yeah, they took the money in the beginning. They signed off on it. But they realized that, this wasn't the right decision. They gave it back. They are very aware that there is going to be backlash on, dang, why did you take the money? And it's important to remember here is that, when they took the money here, it wasn't like, everything's going to be A-okay. People have to take care of the money. They realized this was the right thing to do, and we're going to help out small business by giving this back. And so Shake Shack stood up and said, hey, look, we don't need this money. We have this alternative source of capital. We'll deal with the negative PR. We're going to do the right thing. And they're going to stick by that despite all the criticism that they have right now of why they took the money in the first place. And that is why leadership is more important than marketing today, because uncommon decisions build brands, not bullshit ad campaigns. And your decisions reflect your purpose, whether you use your scorecard or whatever way you decide to make your tough decisions as a brand. Just remember, be very clear and transparent. You don't have to do a big ad campaign to say that we're doing this because we believe in this. Talk about it, whether to your customers, email your customers, ask them to share something with a friend or post on LinkedIn. It's so important today to be super clear on where you stand, because your purpose doesn't mean anything until it costs you money. And if you realize this, I think you're truly ready to go ahead and build your own uncommon future. Now, y'all, I promise y'all some goodies. You know how we do. We don't like ending with takeaways. We like ending with to-dos. So if you email me in 72 hours here, I'm going to give you a little gift. And for those of y'all that stayed on, congratulations. You'll get a copy of this presentation and actually prompts that you can fill out to fill out that Venn diagram, your person, and also your position as well. That way you can actually get going on, some of those key fundamentals. Then you can start acting on those really important decisions that you have to make. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you all so much for hanging in there with us and listening to these great stories. And these brands are truly uncommon today. We can't get through all these questions, unfortunately. There's quite a bit. What we're going to do here is that if you do have a question, go ahead and email me as well. Include that question in the email, and we'll go ahead and follow up. But for now, thank you so much for listening in. We'll be back in May for another really awesome webinar, actually on how to utilize LinkedIn, a very important platform today, and we can't wait to share it with you. For now, go ahead, go make some hard decisions, and go build that uncommon future. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Take care, y'all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it.
All right.